Typhlosion shields up the rock side. When you see a double fire backline, you might be thinking, how do you get rid of threats like Stinky Binky? Well, when shields are down, Shadow Typhlosion goes to town. Welcome back to the channel. Huge shout out to Chlorinated who sent us an incredible battle submission. We're going to be taking a look at a double fire strategy in the Open Great League. You're currently tuned in to the home of Shadow Pokemon, so of course the fire types are both going to be Shadow. We've got Shadow Charizard and Shadow Typhlosion. Time for a quick bit of Pokemon trivia. In Pokemon Go, both Charizard and Typhlosion have exactly the same stats. We all know Shadow Charizard hits like a truck, while Typhlosion is an identical Pokemon. The rank 1 in the Great League is a 0, 15, 13, which will max out at 1500 CP. Rounding the team off, we've got a Chestnaught in the lead, because obviously we're going to be incredibly weak to Rock in the back. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we've got Shadow Drapion in the lead, 2 better responses in the back, and we also need a pivot as we're running an ABB team. We're hoping to bait out any potential rock type. We see the safe switch into Charizard. Charizard commits to Protect Shield. The opponent is running Aqua Tail, which is definitely worse for our fire types. Chlorinated farms up, baits with a Dragon Claw, forcing the first Protect Shield, then farm up. Look to throw on the CMP tie. The opponent doesn't fall for CMP. However, they commit their final Protect Shield. Drapion then over farms. Charizard has done its job. Unless you're an absolute mad lad like myself, I did run Aqua Tail and Sludge Bomb and hit Legend all the way back in Season 8. You can almost bet your mortgage on this opponent having Crunch as a second move, which will allow our Chestnaught to completely wall Drapion. Back out comes Chestnaught. Of course, the opponent is running Crunch as a secondary move. The opponent gets the defense drop. Chestnaught going to be left incredibly low after Crunch number 2, but we survive on minimal HP. Fire off the Super Power. Super Power will secure the knockout, and it's Shadow Typhlosion time. In comes Typhlosion. The opponent sends out Gligar. They go straight for an Aerial Ace. Chlorinated invests his final Protect Shield. Shadow Typhlosion getting head and energy. The opponent switch out into Metachan, but the opponent going to have to farm up all the way to a Psychic to secure the knockout. Chlorinated farms up, fires off the Blast Burn, vanquishing Metachan, back to their Pokeball, and when shields are down, Typhlosion goes to town. The second Blast Burn vanquishes Gligar, back to their Pokeball, and we're off to a 1-0 start. Well, this is a yikes moment if I ever did see one. Defense Deoxys can obviously hit our Chestnaught for super effective with the Psycho Boost, and if this opponent is running Rock Slide, it's going to be double super effective to Charizard as well as super effective to our Typhlosion. The savage of opponent bait our Chestnaught with the Rock Slide, but undeterred, Chlorinated farms up, fires off Frenzy Plant number 1, it lands for huge damage. The opponent gets greedy, allowing us to make Frenzy Plant number 2, and the opponent also match shield. I think we're just going to have to let Chestnaught go. The opponent again go for a masturbating session, allowing Chestnaught to get the full Vine Whip farm down. Clearly, Defense Deoxys is no core breaker when in the hands of someone with a dirty masturbating habit. The opponent send out Carbink. We force the final Protect Shield with the Frenzy Plant, and we pivot into Typhlosion. Holy smokes, we're getting torn apart. However, we still have 1 Protect Shield to hide behind. We shield up the Rock Slide. We've got the Solar Beam locked and loaded. Carbink might think it's thick, but you, sir, are not thick enough. We pause for the screenshot, and heartbreakingly, the opponent's got a Zoomer in the back. No! It looks like Chlorinated is a victim of the algorithm, as we've got 2 fire types in the back, and the opponent has 2 answers to fire. Luckily for us, the opponent doesn't have Hydro Pump, but that resisted Play Rough did huge damage. Chlorinated needs to reach double Blast Burn. We fire off the first one, even resisted, it lands for huge damage. Chlorinated then looks to make a catch onto Chestnaught. The catch isn't the cleanest, but the opponent recognizing they're going to be unable to bubble farm down, fire off the Play Rough, and unfortunately we get bubble farm down and take a heartbreaking loss. Moving on to the next one. Chestnaught into Poliwrath, a great lead. The opponent safe switch into Froslass, and my god, look at the Incinerate damage. Holy! Froslass baits with the Avalanche. Now if Chlorinated looks to go for the full Incinerate farm down, which he does, we're going to be forced to double shield as the opponent is now at the Shadow Ball. The second time the opponent does full send, back out comes Poliwrath, and we're full sending. Does the opponent respect the damage? Ugh, boo, Mr. Opponent. Poliwrath looks for the full counter farm down, but Typhlosion still not done. Reaches the Blast Burn, forcing the final Protect Shield. It's now all shields down. Chlorinated sends out Chestnaught, then immediately pivots into Charizard, trying to catch an Ice Punch. The opponent pivot out into Jumpluff. Jumpluff's going to be straight in and straight out. It's now Poliwrath versus the world. The opponent is going to need to throw the Scald to secure the knockout. The opponent go for the Ice Punch. Perhaps they've got Power Up Punch or Dynamic Punch as a secondary move, and that is going to seal their fate. We fire off the Dragon Claw. The opponent realises the game's over, concede the match. GG's and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next one. Chestnaught into Umbreon. The opponent is staying in, so I wonder if they've got Psychic. However, Umbreon hits like a wet noodle, so Chestnaught doesn't really care. The opponent, of course, does have the Psychic, but Chestnaught tanks it like an absolute boss. Chlorinated farms up, fires off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant lands for huge damage, and then Chlorinated goes straight for the Super. This will either knock out or force a Protect Shield. The opponent sack that Umbreon and then send out Steelix. Chlorinated stays in, fires off a superpower, looking to get himself shield advantage, and he does. We then see the pivot into Charizard, which is of course our soft counter. Not that the opponent knows that, but they might soon find out. Steelix does what all Steelix users do best and fires off a Breaking Swipe. Chlorinated decides to invest the Protect Shield on the next Breaking Swipe. He's then farming up. We're going for the Blast Burn, even 2-stage debuff will land for huge damage. The opponent invests their final Protect Shield, will then get the full Dragon Tail farm down. And my god, it's Typhlosion time. In comes Typhlosion. The annoying Steelix reaches yet another Breaking Swipe. We invest our final Protect Shield. Typhlosion is now debuff. We look to bank the Blast Burn. We see the Simul swap. Chestnaught into Reggie. Reggie gets the full lock-on farm down. We fire off the charge move, but we actually overtap, and that is brutal as Focus Blast gonna vanquish us and back to our Pokeball. GG to that opponent. Moving on to the next one. Chestnaught into Sableye, a pretty good matchup for us, as the opponent does need to land a return. We stay in, farm up, fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant goes unshielded, and my god, that did huge damage. We can actually look to one shield, Vine Whip farm all the way down, and that's exactly what we do. The opponent not wanting to get farmed down, send out Metachan. Chestnaught again fires off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gives us shield parity, and we see the pivot into Charizard. The opponent has enough for a Psychic. Chlorinated does invest his final protection. The opponent full sends the Psychic. Metachan still with one Protect Shield, too hard behind. And in my opinion, we're going for a very risky bait, as Dragon Claw won't knock out the opponent. Call the bait. Can Charizard survive an Ice Punch from this range? Yes, we can. Charizard able to get the Wing Attack farm down. We've got residual energy, but we're on a sliver of HP. The opponent sends out Frostlass. Yikes. I was almost certain that that was going to be Bastiodon. The opponent invests their final Protect Shield on Frostlass. This is tricky. How does Chlorinated play it out? We send in Typhlosion and make a savage catch despite us using a 5-turn move. Let's fucking go. We catch the Shadow Ball. Back out comes Typhlosion. The opponent also make a savage catch in return. My god. Blast Burn. No bubble. Does secure the knockout. Back out comes Frostlass. If this is a Shadow Ball, it's going to be game over. The opponent only reaches the Avalanche, and we win a very close game. GG's to both trainers. In the next battle, we see Chestnaught into every basic bitch meta abuser's favourite fighter, Metachan. Metachan has the advantage here, as they've got access to both Ice Punch and Psychic. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, get ourselves early shield advantage, and see the pivot into Charizard. The opponent has enough for a Psychic. We do respect it, and this savage of an opponent bait with a power-up punch. Yikes, they then send out Toxapex. To be honest, things have gone from bad to worse. Toxapex has the ability to beat the entirety of our team. The opponent throw the brine one before we reach the next Blast Burn. We can't afford to shield here, so we do allow Charizard to go down, but this Toxapex is still a problem. Back out comes Chestnaught. Chestnaught is going to outpace to the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is neutral, but Toxapex incredibly thick. Frenzy Plant does secure the knockout. The opponent switch out into Shadow Gramble, and it's Typhlosion time. Typhlosion looking for the full Incinerate farm down. What the fuck? Charms are resisted, Incinerates are neutral, but the opponent gets the full Charm down, farm down. We shield up the crunch, the opponent send back out Metachan, but unfortunately, due to Charm being absolutely busted, we've got no Wing Con, and the opponent takes the dub. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you're going to know I hate Charm, and that is a prime example of why. What a bullshit move. Yikes, Glisserpod has the ability to beat the entirety of our team. As if they're on an aerial, it's going to be double super effective as a Chestnaught. The opponent actually catches the Frenzy Plant onto Metachan, and we pivot into Typhlosion. It looks like Chlorinated is going to go for the one shield and farm all the way down. The opponent YOLO the Dynamic Punch. Good shield, good shield. We do get the full Incinerate farm down, but my god are we low. We're going to need to survive one Shadow Claw, moment of truth time. We fire off the first blast burn. Is Typhlosion able to reach the back-to-back? Yes, we are. Let's fucking go. This second blast burn either going to force the final protect shield or land for huge damage. Let's go. It's now all shields down. Back out comes Chestnaught. It looks like Chlorinate is just going to completely sack it. The opponent actually YOLO the liquidation. Okay. Are you going to fire another liquidation train or what is going on? The opponent does fire off another liquidation. We then see Chlorinated go for the pause, a very heads-up play, allowing him to fire off the superpower onto Steelix, and we see that pivot into Zard. This stupid, annoying Steel Snake, of course, goes straight for the break-in swipe. Oh, they're actually running Psychic Fangs. Either way, we showed no respect as Steelix hits like a wet noodle. We then farm up, fire off the Blast Burn, vanquishing Steelix back to their Pokeball. Back out comes Glisserpod, and you, sir, are about to meet the same fate. Blast Burn vanquishes the low health Glisserpod back to their Pokeball. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle. We see another Drapion in the lead. This time we are opting to stay in. We go straight for a Superpower. It looks like we're going to Superpower and dip. Superpower is neutral and going to land for big damage. Well, I say big damage, it did do half of the HP. Does this Drapion also have Aqua Tail? Of course they fucking do. The opponent going to be able to outpace Aqua Tail number 2, but Charizard will survive 1. Aqua Tail not the best move, especially when they're not getting same type attack bonus. We then farm up, throw the Dragon Claw on the CMP tie. The opponent just completely sack Drapion as they've got shield advantage, then send out Poliwrath. Poliwrath going to be met with the resisted Blast Burn, but Charizard hits like a truck. The opponent give us a Protect Shield. We then send back out Donatello. Surely I'm not the only person who watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a kid, or maybe I'm just old. Either way, I've got distracted, but let's get back into the commentary. The opponent threw the Ice Punch, then pivoted out into Dugong. We forced the final Protect Shield with the Superpower, and here comes Typhlosion. Tough decisions to make. Respect the Drill Run. To my absolute surprise, the opponent full sends the Drill Run. The Incinerates are tearing apart Dugong, despite being incredibly thick. We throw the Blast and vanquishing the opponent back to their Pokeball. Back out comes Poliwrath. We fire off the resisted Blast Burn, which almost knocks out. Poliwrath's going to need to double up, but they don't get there, and we take the dub. Moving on to the next one. Yet another Steelix. Ultra League is essentially a Steelix meta, and apparently people are still using it in the Great League. Niantic, why did you give this Pokemon break-in swipe? It's so annoying. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, forcing a Protect Shield. We've seen Psychic Fangs once. Does this opponent have Psychic Fangs? It's just a break-in swipe, which does lower our attack. But Chlorinated, undeterred, continues to overfarm. It looks like we're going to shield the next break-in swipe and probably look to double up. We don't actually double up, but we do throw one Vine Whip and the Superpower for optimal fast move time in Superpower lands. For decent damage, we then pivot into Typhlosion and the opponent answer with Metachan. We've already seen that Blast Burn does ridiculous damage. So does the opponent give us the final Protect Shield? Yes, they do. Typhlosion has done its job, so I think we should save our final Protect Shield for Charizard. Chlorinated does agree, but the opponent go for the Power-Up Punch. We just get denied of the Blast Burn. That's painful. Out comes Charizard. We do correctly shield up a boosted Psychic. Charizard then farms up, throws the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will be secure in the knockout. What does the opponent have in the back? We're looking to pivot back out into Chestnaught. Or we're now thinking about it. Do we see the pivot? The opponent send out Trevenant. The opponent look to make a catch. We bank the Blast Burn, pivot back out into Chestnaught. Chlorinated, you sir, are playing very well. Breaking Swipe does secure the knockout. We then fire off the Dragon Claw. I don't think Dragon Claw will be lethal, but it should allow us to farm down. Dragon Claw doesn't secure the knockout. We leave with the Blast Burn, and this is a beautiful moment. Trevenant getting cooked. GG's, and thanks for playing. I always say you need to show patience when playing this game, and Chlorinated discipline on point. The Owl. Interesting. I thought the Owl was a myth. Evidently is not. The opponent send out yet another flyer. The Flying Toilet. We full send the Solar Beam. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Get absolutely wrecked. Typhlosion flip switch. The opponent sends out Quagsire. And that is such a beautiful thing. With flip switch and alignment is going to be so important. We can now realign, and Chestnaught is an absolute wall to the Quagman. Stone Edge resisted. Mud Bomb resisted. The opponent fires off the Mud Bomb. Chestnaught says, what the heck is that damage? The opponent is still switch locked, so we fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant, force a Protect Shield. The opponent then pivot out into Knockdown. Chestnaught has done its job, or at least I would say so. We actually opt to shield up the Sky Attack, pivot out into Charizard. Charizard is going to get outpaced to the Blast Burn. We see Chlorinated invest his final Protect Shield here. This is going to get somewhat dicey. We're going for the bait. No, if the opponent calls this, I think we're in trouble. The opponent doesn't call the bait, which is going to allow Charizard to reach the Blast Burn. Who was worried other than me? I just don't bait, but that did scare me somewhat. Blast Burn does secure the knockout. Back out comes Quagman Charizard. Gonna get the sweep in this battle. Dragon Claw will secure the dub. GG's and thanks for playing. It looks like the opponent has force closed the app by the amount of lag. And can I blame him? Probably not, as the opponent could have RPS'd us, but instead take the loss. Chlorinated goes 4-1 in set number 2. Huge shout out to Chlorinated. That was so much fun to shoutcast. Them solar beams were absolutely epic. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to my battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching. And I will see you all in the next one.